We're taking the pulse of the Yellow Hammer State here on Coffee and Curveballs. I'm Cory McCartney with Shooter Hunt, as always, and we're joined by Prep Baseball Alabama's Austin Sharp. Austin, man, welcome in.
Appreciate you having me. I could finally say I made it, making it on Coffee and Curveball. So appreciate you having me.
There you go. So let's start our conversation with the three standouts from your preseason All-State event, and it is topped by the #1 player in the state in 2025, and that's Alabama-bound Caleb Barnett.
Yeah, Caleb he moved in from Pennsylvania last year, and he moved into Mountain Brook, which is a perennial state power in Class 6A, and he didn't skip a beat. Was hitting in the middle of their order from the first game as a freshman or as a sophomore, and through their game 2 on the mound. He's big 6'5", 210 pound two-way prospects. He came to our North event and was just very impressive across the board, both on the mound and at the plate. And when you come to these events and you're the #1 player, there's tons of eyes on you. And the thing that stood out to us mostly was just the way that he carried himself. He knew that he had eyes on him, and he just went to work just like a professional. I think he had a triple-digit exit velocity, was up to 90 on the mound. Good feel for his 3-pitch mix, and he's a clean mover down the mound. There's tons to like, both as a two-way prospect. Remains to be seen what he'll do, but we like his upside on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Cory, he's a national top 100 guy. That's definitely on my radar last year, looking at the All-American game. I think this summer is going to kind of be the breakout for him professionally, as the scouts get a look at him, the frame, what he can do on the mound, what he does at the plate, the loud outputs. They scream professional interest.
And then, Austin, a couple signees, Braden Booth on his way to Mississippi State, and Southern Miss signee Dre Barrett. Tell me what stood out specifically with these two.
Yeah, Braden's a guy who we've been following for, seems like 5 or 6 years now, going back to I think he was on our first ever junior future games team that went over to Lake Point when we started back up in 2018. And it's been fun to follow his progression over the years. Like you said, Mississippi State recruit, and we'll get into it a little bit, but Bob Jones has gotten off to a scorching start, and he's a big reason why. He's their #1 on the mound, was up to 93 at our kickoff classic, but didn't throw at our North preseason All-State. Just elected to hit, saving his bullets for the spring. But it was a loud round of BP. You can just tell the ball just sounds different coming off his bat. It's a smooth right-handed swing, good feel for the barrel, and gap-to-gap hitter. I think he was 103 off the bat. Just loud tools across the board, and he's like Barnett. It remains to be seen what he'll do if he gets to Mississippi State. But we're high on both sides, up to 93, and just that we really love that right-handed bat.
Yeah, he's a winner. I think that's what the biggest thing is, whether he's going to pitch, play the field, hit. There's some twitchy athleticism, and he goes out there and does it. Austin, as you and I have talked about that Bob Jones program, they just, you come at the king, you best not miss, and we'll talk about them in a second here. But what about Dre Barrett?
Yeah, Dre was the guy who came to our South preseason All-State. I think he was on the same team as Braden Booth on that junior future games team back in 2018 or 2019. So he's another guy that we've been able to follow over the years, and he looks the part. He's going to Southern Miss. He looks the part. I think he's 6'3", 210 pounds now. He looks like a Division I prospect right now. Passes the eye test, and we had our event at Saraland High School, and those who are familiar with Saraland High School, they have the football field behind left field, and he was just consistent. Just low effort right-handed swings, consistent low triple-digit exit velocities, and I think he hit one or two off the football stadium and in deep left field. It was high exits. Athleticism translate to the field. He's a smooth infielder. Could probably move to third base in the future, but has the athleticism to stick on the left side of the infield with that strong arm as well. He's a guy who coming off the state championship last year in Class 5A. He's a guy, maybe a potential late round pick in MLB draft. He's a guy to get out and see this spring.
Cory, we've talked a lot about some Southern Miss recruits from different states. Back in Georgia, a kid there in your neck of the woods at Etowah did a nice job. But those power major recruits, Southern Miss doing a great job. Potentially next year having one of the top classes on campus.
Yeah, absolutely. Caleb Hughes there from Etowah on his way to Southern Miss as well. Austin, your kickoff classic last month, 14 teams across 4 locations, and some seriously heavy hitters. Give us some of the lessons learned from this event.
Yeah, it was, we tried to capture with the kickoff classic, trying to capture that opening day feel of, you're excited as a player and a coach, you're excited to play against somebody else. And when, coming out of the gate in your first 3 games playing some of the top competition in Alabama, that's kind of what we tried to build with the Kickoff Classic. And we were, very, very pleased with it. Kind of the first takeaway that we had, going into the season, I think we had Central Phoenix City ranked 5th in Class 7A in our preseason poll. Well, Central Phoenix City is still Central Phoenix City. We've talked about it on our podcast. They, you think of Class 7A and you think of the Bob Jones, the Thompsons, the Hewitt Trussell, Spain Parks, Vestavia Hills, all those teams who are loaded with high-end talent. Central Phoenix City may not have that depth of high-end talent, but when you watch Central Phoenix City play, it's easy to see that they are a scrappy, hard-nosed, well-coached team. They are, they've made it to the Class 7A state finals the last 2 years, won it in 2022 and finished as a runner-up in 2023. They went 3-0, beat some of the biggest teams in the Kickoff Classic. They went 3-0, and they're sitting at 10-1. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but it's Central Phoenix City is a tough team to play.
And for me, nationally going in, I know Central Phoenix City is going to be a tough out at all time. 1 through 9, they're going to battle through. They're going to be dirt balls, diving all over the field. They're going to throw strikes, make plays. That's something that I expect. So it's fun to see that they're off doing that. But you guys do such a great job with this Kickoff Classic. Just really shows the passion that you have for the state and high school baseball, and I guess just baseball in general. So I've been following from a distance. But when we last talked about a month or so ago, Austin, I immediately brought up, what is Bob Jones up to? So how have they looked?
They've looked really well. They went 2-1. I think they went 1-2 at the event. But you look at their losses, they got beat by Hartselle 4-0. And they got beat by Central Phoenix City 2-1. And that Saturday, that was a cold Saturday. So offense may be struggling out of the gate, but I think they've reeled off 8 or 9 straight wins. They've beaten IMG, beaten Cartersville, beating some big time teams, nationally ranked teams. And
Wesleyan Christian as well in North Carolina, who's a national rank too.
Yep. So we think that they have a real chance to win, to be a major competitor for the Class 7A Blue Map this spring. And we talked about Braden Booth. They've got a bunch of other guys, Zachary Johnson, Dylan Atkins, the list goes on. We're really high on Bob Jones this spring.
Yeah, Zach Johnson, big catcher from the future games. But the national wins were huge for them. And especially in baseball, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So those early season losses, we're trying to figure out our lineup, especially because they were close against some big programs. Those do not weigh quite as much as the coaching staffs figuring out their team. Going in and having those marquee wins is a big reason why Bob Jones jumped up the national rankings. But it was outstanding. But what about in 6A with Oxford and obviously Hartselle?
Yeah, you talk about Oxford, the defending 6A state champs from last year, led by Carter Johnson, number 4 player in our 2024 class nationally. We were interested to see how Oxford would respond. They lost a lot on the mound last year, but bring back some heavy hitters and sort of the same as Hartselle, who won it in 2022. But we think Class 6A should once again go through Oxford and Hartselle this year, playing big factors. They at the Kickoff Classic, I think they either won 2 or 3 games. They were really impressive, putting up some big numbers at the plate, and they were able to piece it together on the mound. And you just when you think of Oxford and Hartselle, just that winning pedigree, they just know how to win. They have it in their DNA, and we expect them to make a late push once again in Class 6A this year.
And then Gardendale and Helena. Why are these teams to watch as well?
Yeah, Gardendale, Helena. Both of those teams were obviously in our Kickoff Classic. We think that they're both sneaky teams. Gardendale, led by Ty McGraw, Caden Combs, Cooper Jarvis, both upperclassmen. They help lead the way at the top of that order. They've put up, I think, probably half of their games so far this spring. They've scored double digits. They can really, really swing it. And then you look at Helena, who was a consistent powerhouse, won the state championship 4 or 5 years ago. May not have had the type of success that they've wanted to over the past few years, but we think that they're coming back to form this spring. We think that roster is very talented, and they've got enough pieces like Gardendale to be a sneaky team to watch for in Class 6A this year.
Awesome. Yeah, you mentioned Cooper Jarvis. That's just a kid that just carries himself a little bit differently there for that Gardendale squad. As we pull back and look at what to watch for this spring in Alabama, Austin, I think you got to start with arguably I mean, I think this is one of the best 1-2 punches in any state in two halves of one of college sports' best rivalries. You got Alabama signee Carter Johnson, Auburn bound Connor Gatwood. Just talk to us about the top of that class in Alabama.
Yeah, both those guys who were on our future games team 2 years ago, and it's been fun to see them blow up. You talk about Carter Johnson, and I've talked to Shooter a bunch of times. Just Carter, when you see that left-handed swing on Twitter, you have to stop and watch it. And he understands. Seeing him at the Kickoff Classic, it's going to be a different year for him. He's going to be pitched different. People are not going to let him beat them. He's going to get a lot of walks, and he's carried himself like a professional throughout the first couple of weeks of the season. And then you look at Connor Gatwood, our number 2 player in the class. We got to see him last week in a start, and I think he went 3 innings, punched out 6 or 7 to give up a hit or a run, was 95 to 97, hit 98 a couple times. Question on him was the slider. How has it improved? And we thought for the most part that it's continuing to develop. It's a upper 88, 90 mile per hour slider. You look at it, 6'5", 210 pounds. What's not to like with that frame and working up to 98 on the mound?
Yeah, and going with Carter Johnson, it's definitely going to be a different spring for him, where it's going to be an adjustment to the fact guys are going to put pitch around him. He's going to see their best bolt. He may only get 1 at bat a game where he's actually seeing pitches. So I think the way he handles that success of the past this year will be something guys are keying in on, because we know that he's going to hit. And then Connor Gatwood might have the best fastball in the entire prep class. It's explosive. I'd expect it probably potentially hit triple digits by the end of the season as the weather gets warmer. But that frame, the way the arm works, the ball jumps out of the hand, it creates that steep plane as the slider continues to come along. And if professional organizations see it as a potential future plus pitch, I think he's got a chance to sneak into that 30 to 35 range, that supplemental pick, even the back half of the first round, just based on the frame and the upside.
Austin, let's look at who else and what else you're watching and start off here with Oxford and Vestavia Hills.
Yeah, we touched on Oxford coming off, but Oxford and Vestavia Hills both coming off state titles in 2023. Talked about Oxford. How did they rebound? They were really good in our kickoff classic. I think they're 5-4 now. We think they're going to be able to swing it and should be major threats once again this year in Class 6A. Then you look at Vestavia Hills, who sit at 4-4. Both Oxford and Vestavia Hills played against each other on opening day, and Oxford was able to win both of those games. But Vestavia Hills certainly has the talent once again to repeat this year. They just got some pieces on the mound. They need some guys to step up, but we think that they have the talent, both Oxford and Vestavia, to do so this year, and they're going to be prime factors in both their classifications.
And what about Thompson? They were kind of the school that was buzzy to start the year, really expecting big things, kind of off to a slower start. Will that impact the rest of the year, or do you feel like they'll get hot?
Oh, I feel like they'll get hot. I mean, it's sort of a tale of 2 different years. Last year, they came onto the scene. I think they were 20-0, was number 1 in our Power 25 poll for the majority of the year. Made it to the Final Four and got beaten in Game 3 against Vestavia Hills. And this year they return pretty much everything and add two key pieces in Demarion Terrell, and a 2024 outfielder who has really solidified himself as a real MLB draft candidate, and right-handed pitcher catcher, Mikael Holden, who's headed to Alabama. But you look at some of the pieces that they have coming back, Drake McBride, Perrin Bland, both of them headed to Troy, Ethan Crook and Tucker Arrington, 2 more seniors who are going to play at the next level. That senior class and those additions that they've got, we think that this possibly could be the year for Thompson, but it's not going to be easy with tons of more talented teams in Class 7A.
And then certainly you've got some gauntlets in Area 5 and Area 6. I mean, how do you guys kind of look at this in terms of what teams could be coming out of there?
Yeah, the sort of the narrative in Class 7A in Alabama is, those 2 Birmingham areas. When you look at Area 5 with Hoover, Vestavia Hills, Thompson, and Tuscaloosa County, starting with Area 5 with those teams I just mentioned. I think both of those teams won over 25 games last year, 20 or 25 games last year, and only 2 could make the playoffs. Tuscaloosa County winning 31 regular season games. So you can it doesn't matter what your record is going into area play. It's just all about, how you do in those 6 games. So the Area 5 will be one to follow. I think most people call it the SEC West. And then you look at Area 6 is equally as talented as well with Chelsea and Hewitt Trussell, Oak Mountain, and Spain Park. Two of those teams aren't going to make the playoffs, so it's all about who's gonna be playing the best baseball when it comes down to crunch time, and that's going to be a storyline that we're going to be following here in about a month.
Oh man, Corey, baseball season, I'm loving it. I can't wait to. Hopefully, you're not ignoring my calls and my texts when I'm looking for updates. Sorry that I'll be bugging you all spring, Austin.
Never shooter.
Austin, man, great stuff and an exciting spring ahead in Alabama. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll be sure to catch up again real soon.